On the season premiere of Drinks Around the Table, renowned author and cartoonist Daniel Moeller returns. This time we do things right, and Daniel discusses his artistic origin story, demonstrates how sometimes garbage pail kids with help from the tarot can guide your way, his articles for Reality Sandwich, and how he juggles so many projects. Hope you enjoy. With all the projects that you want to do, how are you deciding just what pulls you that moment?
Well, I kind of got into a space where when I'm working on one thing just with like my head down, because I did that for so many years, I wouldn't really call it burnout, but I don't know, I just need a little bit more.
Right.
I just want some flexibility in my creative schedule. Also because like I don't have any deadlines. I work for myself in that regard, and I'm not holding myself to deadlines. So
Yeah.
I just kind of picked like 3-ish projects that I'll work on one until I'm like feeling ugh, and then I'll jump to the other until I'm feeling ugh. And it's not necessarily blocks, it's just like I want to keep it fresh.
Oh yeah, I get it. Yeah. Where
So
you're just wanting to, yeah. What's got the motor running at the moment?
well, I'm on Simon Myth Chronicles Broken Chalice issue 3. I'm working the page that I finish up now. I should only have about 5 pages left of issue 3. Yeah.
Nice.
And which, I mean, you say, yeah, really, but man, I've been working on it for almost a year. I've had a lot going on, so
Right.
I haven't been able to dedicate as much time to it as I want. But also, I'm just really trying to be, I don't want to say careful, but I don't want to rush it, and I'm trying to also stretch like new horizons. So there's like whole scenes that take place inside certain places that I'm trying to get accurate. I'm trying to really work on my backgrounds and architecture, and I'm also guns have been introduced to the Simon Myth world. So like guns are really hard. Like I can draw the insides of buildings all day, which isn't that exciting, but I can do it. And
Right.
It doesn't really bother me. It doesn't irk me. But guns are kind of like cars. There's something about those two things, and I've heard other artists talk about it, that are just hard. They're so hard. Because it's not only mechanical, but it's not just like straight edges. There's
Right.
curves and whatnot. And so still to try to make it look like a solid object and not like a soft plushy doll is
Right.
is
Can't have your guns
not
looking like plushy dolls.
not the easiest thing. So yeah, I'm working on Simon Myth issue 3. So once I get the drawing done, then I'm going to go in with ink wash on all 24 pages, and that doesn't take too long to do all the pages in ink wash for me. I could probably do it in a weekend if I buckle down.
Right.
But I got two pinups from amazing artists that are going to go in issue 3. One, we know Mr. Sam Sahonis, the creator of Philip K. So he actually did a drawing of my character Simon Myth and his character Philip K together. So it was a lot of fun. I'm going to have that as a pinup, and then also going to have a pinup by Ken Landgraf, like the noteworthy New York
Nice.
City Outlaws. Ken Landgraf did a Simon Myth commission for me, so I'm excited to show that off.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm working on that. I'm working on Psychonaut Presents number 5, which is going to be kind of a shift from my other Psychonaut Presents books, because I'm making it kind of a little bit more like an underground comic from the 60s.
Right.
Robert Crumb is one of my biggest inspirations, so
True.
it's going to be a little bit more in that motif. So yeah, and the thing about that is I'm really taking my time with that. That's just a piece that it's not like a high priority list. It's just whenever I need to freshen up on my cartooning. And so it's going to be less about autobiographical, like psychedelic experiences, although there'll be a little bit of that in there, but it's going to be a lot of different like cartoons, just kind of fake ads and fun things like you're reading through a Mad Magazine or something is the kind of feel I'm hoping for.
What did you have? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, people that might follow me on social media note that I'm not posting anything about that because I'm leaving all that content exclusively for Patreons.
Ah, okay.
So if you're a patron for me on Patreon, you're gonna get Psychonaut Presents issue 5 in its entirety before anybody ever sees it in print. So, and as I'm working on it, I'm posting things, so you're getting to see, panel for panel.
Did you ever have any thought on, instead of making it issue 5, since it's going to be such a departure from the original for the first 4, starting over with an issue 1?
No, not at all, because that I've already made so many number 1s that I really would like a number 5. I want to see the upper numbers,
Right.
I want to see that work. But also, I kind of always envisioned it as it eventually being something like that. I felt like issues 1 through 4, I was just kind of getting my feet wet. I mean, they were the first real full-fledged comics that I even made. And so they're kind of like my schooling, really. And hopefully people can see that progression in issues 1
Right.
through 4. I actually am kind of redoing the covers even, because I kind of made in the covers of the initial issues like the subtitles to the title, really.
Mm-hmm.
Like the logo looks more like the comic logo rather than like the comic company logo, and the subtitle looks like the title of the comic. So I'm reissuing them all, as you can see here, and I just got the copies in today. They
Nice.
just got in the mail. I'll see how better, but
That's pretty
so they'll all actually say Psychonaut Presents, and then you can see like the subtitles in it.
Okay.
And those
Yeah.
should be out on Indie Planet soon, hopefully.
Nice.
But yeah, so I'm excited for that. And there still will be a little bit of like that old psychedelic Psychonaut element in the issue 5. It's just not going to be a prominent feature.
Right.
I got a lot of other little cartooning ideas that I want to express. Kind of harkening back to my old comic strip days, because that's really, when I think about it, that like, think about Burke Breathes, like Bloom County. Like that comic strip in the Sunday paper was so influential to me. I don't know why. I don't even think I understood at a really young age half of like any of his jokes, but just the cartooning expression that he had with Opus and Bill the Cat just blew my mind as a kid. And I kind of want to get into that, tap into that part of myself.
I gotcha. We'll get to the pimping out of the material.
Yeah.
In a second. But so you did not get, no matter what you say, you did not get a proper Drinks Around the Table episode being the premiere of the original series.
Whatever.
Partly because there was no original series. We were just drinking and drawing, and I hit record. So that being said,
I still think it's the best episode.
well, that's
And not just because I was in it, but
that's debatable. But
it was
all right.
hilarious. No, yeah,
Well,
it's not the
let's-
best. You had a lot of great episodes, a lot of great people on.
Let's get into a little more of Daniel Moore 411.
Oh,
All
before we do, then can I grab the camera for a second? I'm just
All
going
right.
to jump in since
Yeah,
you're
you
going-
just
So-
keep running with this episode, man.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm just taking off.
we're on
So
Psychonaut sessions.
yeah. You know that I'm a fan of the Tarot, right? And
Mhm.
my son got me not too long ago the Garbage Pail Kids Tarot, because like two of my favorite things in the world, Tarot
Right.
mysticism and fucking Garbage Pail Kids. Like you cannot get any more perfect. And it was made by that was illustrated by Maren Kim and written by Minerva Siegel. And I drew a card for this session, for this Drinks
Alright.
Around the Table, for this video session.
That's very
Right.
fun.
Yep. So I drew the Knight of Wands. I'm trying to get so that the camera can actually.
Let's get back
Yeah.
a little. There you go.
The Knight of Wands.
Nice.
Hell yeah, man. There we go. It's nice
There
and
you
clear
go.
there. Look at that beauty.
Damn.
So the Knight of Wands is that has the determination and relentless focus to get themselves out of a sticky situation, as adaptable as Patty Putty. It's Patty Putty
That's
because it's based
awesome.
upon actual GPK kids.
Yeah.
As adaptable as Patty Putty, they use their abundant creativity to get what they want. If you find yourself up against a challenge, this card advises you to pivot on the path as necessary, but to maintain your momentum. Boom. I was like, that's like so perfect in terms of like where I'm trying to be right now with my own creativity. I've had a lot of blocks and a lot of hardship in the past year, and I'm
Right.
like in that pivot right now. So
Nice.
we are Patty Putty, you and I,
That's
right
awesome.
now.
I'll take it.
Yeah. I thought that was cool.
That is very cool. All right.
All right, sorry,
So-
didn't mean to interrupt you.
No. That was worth it. That was totally worth it. All right. So let me quit bumping my desk here. All right. So you've drawn from a very early age, right? Like, I don't know how old you were, but full disclosure to everybody watching that doesn't know already, we've known each other forever. So I'm trying to approach this like we haven't.
My first memories are of drawing before I even knew how to write, and I would draw picture books. And I remember specifically I had a series of picture books that were like based upon like some elephant character, like Little Boy Elephant or something, like Babar or something.
Babar,
I didn't
yeah.
even watch Babar. And I would do the covers in construction paper. So I'd fold paper in half and do illustrations, and I'd cover it in construction paper. That would be the cover, so it'd be more durable.
Right.
And my mom, I would tell my mom what to write, and she would
Okay.
write the words. And I wish to God, like when we moved from the small town we grew up in, you know,
Yeah.
and I moved away, an hour away. Things were lost, and it just so happened a box of like all my old comics that I used to draw, and many of like those books are like gone. And
Couldn't have been clothes. It couldn't have been something easily replaceable.
I know. It was like literally the most invaluable thing for me, but that's fine.
Well,
It's a good memory. But
that's awesome.
It's always been my shtick. So it's just like not even just drawing, but like storytelling. I freaking just love telling stories. I think that's why I hooked in so much with you as a kid. Full disclosure for anybody watching, Aaron was actually my older brother's friend at first, because Aaron was a little bit older, and I think he just
For
got
like half
bored.
an hour.
Yeah, I think he kind of hung out with my older brother, and who was boring. No offense, Brian, I love you, but maybe you were back then. And then looked over at me, and I'm like fighting imaginary dragons and shit, and Aaron's like, I think I'm gonna go over there. I'm gonna go where the cool magic is. And
Exactly.
like, and what's just interesting, because I like, playing with you, you were a source of like magic and inspiration. So you kind of became like that older brother that I was like following around and like, what are we gonna kill now, Aaron? How many trolls?
Well, and like, yeah, just feeding off of each other at that age too. Like, it was just a cycle of dreaming and imagination, and yeah, I mean,
Small town, 80s,
yep.
heavy metal. What more do you need?
It's pretty much Stranger Things without all the weird shit. I mean, not that kind of weird shit anyway.
We had some weird shit. But yeah, not like that.
Right. Well, do you remember when playing with that construction paper and the riff on Babar or whatever it is, do you remember any kind of where it started to hit you, where you understood art on a different level, like beyond just playing with crayons and construction paper, like, or did it just hit that way out the gate?
No, it's actually very interesting, because growing up, I kind of had and I had this kind of conception of my dad. My mom, not so much, but she was just kind of aloof to it. But like maybe my dad didn't support my art at all. But I remember very distinctly, I was still in elementary. He took me to Springfield and enrolled me in classes at the art museum. And I was like, oh, cool drawing, because I was kind of thinking, I'm gonna get to draw cartoons and shit. And it was not. It was like still life Like I learned, shape, form, volume, texture. I learned it like opened up my mind. And this is right around the time when not only was I like really into watching Bob Ross on like PBS, but actually the show that really gets me was Secret City. Do you remember Secret City? Oh
wait, that's not what I thought you were saying. I don't know if I do remember Secret City.
Oh my gosh, I have the book right over there. Just like give me like 2 seconds.
Oh.
So my wife just got this book for me, but it's Mark Kistler, and he's still alive. And he had this club called the Draw Squad. And Secret City.
Oh, shit.
Yes. Secret City. Like, this was my illustration guide. And so he taught me all kinds of stuff, So he really taught me how to, like, cartoon beyond just, like, scratching around on paper.
Right.
And so when I went to those art classes, it was right around the same time I was like really into that. I was really into Bob Ross. And then he hooked me up with a patient of his that was a friend who was not doing very well. And she happened to do that painting behind me right there. And she did a whole lot of other artwork that we have all around that house that you've seen before.
Yeah.
And so he was telling her about me, and she was like, well, I'd really like to see him and like hang out with him, have a conversation, and brought me to her studio. And dude, it was something out of a dream. It was something out of like a Frank Lloyd Wright sort of night. The closest thing I can describe to you is kind of like if you took House on the Rock. House on the Rock in Wisconsin. We went there, and you shrunk it into just like a little house in the middle of Springfield. That was her house.
Wow.
And she just had like weird artifacts from around the world, like freaking like weird tunics from ancient China and stuff, and books everywhere. And then her whole entire upstairs was a studio with nothing but skylights for a roof, and it was all circular, and it was just like paint everywhere, canvases everywhere. And that just sparked this like little friendship between her and I. Her name is Bev Hopkins, and she taught at like Drury University and SMSU, taught art classes in Springfield for a good part of her life, lived alone. And eventually when I was in college, I kept a friendship with her all the way up through college. And she ended up dying of cancer. But like just incredible. I mean, she was always just this person that opened up this whole new world of what art meant, like what like the experimentation, the vistas of the imagination. I mean, she was amazing.
Sounds like it. Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think I think like growing up, especially when you don't see things from a certain perspective, and then you finally become a parent yourself. I think I probably wasn't as appreciative of my parents in the way they actually did support me, because at the time I was like, they don't support me in my art, which is a very cool thing to say, I guess. But like, no, I think they were actually like very supportive, because that connection that my dad gave me, and then enrolling me in those art classes was like completely mind blowing.
Well, sure, particularly at that age.
Yeah.
All right, so then you mentioned college. Where did you go to college?
Drury. I went to Drury University, and I majored in art, studio art, and like hated it. I hated.
Well, that was going to be my follow-up. Yeah, like how did that affect you? Like to come from such a primal little kid appreciation of learning what art could be, how did an institution, that makes it sound like I'm immediately dogging it. Like I know some people that did very well at school, like as far as it opening up, what it already opened up in you, but you would come in already opened up.
Yeah.
How did that affect you? Obviously not well.
I didn't, so I had nothing against Drury itself. It was just the experience of, critiques and the way that particular art department was designed, because it was actually the foundation of that art department was based upon the Juanita K. Hammond School of Architecture. So everything was so design focused, and I was like the opposite of that, right? So, and also I wasn't ready for kind of like the pretentiousness of the art world, because I went in with like my arm tucked in with a bunch of notebooks from high school. Instead of taking notes in class, I drew comics and shit. So I'm going in with like my comics literally in spiral bound notebooks, and everybody's kind of laughing at me and like, oh my God, like what? Because there are these kind of artists that are like painting soup cans and calling it art, or nailing a one guy literally nailed a banana on a wall and just took pictures of it decomposing, and that was his art piece. And these were the kinds of things that were just like drawing professors' attention and drawing like, oh wow. And it's not that I didn't appreciate art theory. I loved art theory and I loved art history, but it was kind of like people were taking the weird experimentation that happened with the Dada movement, like the early German expressionists and shit like that.
Right.
It's like people just kept trying to want to relive that over and over and over again. And it's like that happened in that one particular place in time, and it can't really be replicated now because it just seems pretentious. It just seems like you're just like in this like postmodern loop of playing the record over and over and over again instead of trying anything new and different. And I really feel like, you know, at least at the time, you know, comic art like was in this major boom in the 90s. That's when I was, you know, going to college, was in the late 90s.
Yeah.
And it was, that's like a great American art form. And it was never seen as that. It was the first time somebody was holding up to me that there's a difference between illustration and art. And to this, I understand that distinction, but I don't necessarily agree with it. And it really bugged me back then. So halfway through college, I was like, fuck this, because I'm like really frustrated with all the art cliques and all these people in their beret hats and smoking weed thinking they're everything. And I started a double major in English, and I got along way more with English majors at that time because I wanted to learn how to tell stories too. I didn't want to just paint a picture on a wall.
Right.
I wanted to tell stories. So I need to learn how to write. I need to read more than just comics.
Yeah.
You know, so I ended up with a double major.
Is that because what was your first published work?
Oh God.
Not counting, I guess, well, that's not particularly coming out of college conversation, but not counting a paper.
Like in college, like a college
right.
journal or
Right,
something
right.
like that. Yeah, because I got published in a few things like that. But actually, my very first published thing was coming out of college. I had a couple of articles printed in the Jewish Chronicle newspaper, and they were literally about elder home care. Because coming out of college with an art degree and English degree, what do you think I did? You think I was an artist or an English major? So I was working in home health care, and I was working in the Jewish community in Kansas City at the time. Cute story. I don't know if this was in the first Drinks Around the Table, but literally, you and I were so naive that we thought we could just pack all of our shit in a U-Haul and drive from Springfield to Kansas City, and then I could just walk into Hallmark and show them my portfolio and get a job. And
That was the plan.
This was in the world where, like, no, you have to make a profile online. And I was like, what? Like, no clue. We literally did that. Just drove right into Kansas City and went right.
Literally to there. Yeah, like
to the Hallmark building. And I walked in the front door, and man, that was, it was a very humiliating experience, the way that front desk lady looked at me. And
I mean,
she was trying to be nice, but it was
at least
just
some
like,
part of them would have like admired the gumption of like
you
I'm
poor
here.
thing. I know. I was like, nobody does this anymore, right? It's going to be powerful. No.
Right.
But
yeah, because it's not like you went in thinking, you know, this is the best, you're going to be blown away. This is the coolest. My work is going to just slay.
Yeah.
You just thought, okay, like, here I am.
But those are actually my first published articles, like professional articles. And then outside of that, that was actually in my niche. Was it around 2009, 2010? I can't remember. I got published on the Reality Sandwich magazine, online magazine. My article Ouroboros, which was kind of like taking my art history knowledge and kind of applied it, looking at consciousness in a 20th century framework using various stages of art through the 20th century and how things evolved from the camera, using the camera, and then whenever, like what happened to art when the camera came into use, and then motion pictures, you know, became a thing. Like that art had to get weird and funky. It had to do things like somebody took a toilet and signed their name on it because they were competing with, you know, fucking motion pictures. They were competing with Charlie Chaplin at the time. Whereas that's what people used to do on Saturday nights, right? They used to go to the gallery. That was, you know, so the art world kind of like became this like weird middle class thing. And then especially during like World War I and World War II, like the aftermath of World War I going to World War II, and you look at like the surrealists like Max Ernst and other folk like that, you know, it became like a voice of expression of like actually showing like the horrors of war and the horrors of like totalitarian governments and shit like that. So it became, you know, then it became like a propaganda tool and shit as well. And it was just really interesting. It was just kind of like the way it kind of mapped the consciousness of humanity at that time seemed very clear to me. And now we're kind of in this place because I later went back and got my master's at Baker University, specifically in modern and postmodern art and literature. And that was what the Ouroboros article was about, is that we've kind of like worked ourselves in a loop. And that's kind of the postmodern problem that we're in, is there's not a whole lot of like new things, new ground being broken. There's a lot of like retread and like revisiting of history, because we're like more aware of history now than I think most people have ever been throughout history. And there's cases where I could be completely wrong on that, and like I'm fine. It was the article that I wrote then, you know,
which is
I've actually,
we're talking 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, and I've actually thought about revisiting that article and updating it and actually extending it into like a longer like thesis that I could put in a book of like short, not just short stories, but just short non-fictions and fictions, just like short works together, like an anthology book of something else. Thinking about compiling of some of my older stuff and like redoing it.
Very cool.
Yeah, Reality Sandwich is kind of where I got a break. Like right after that, I started getting asked to make, you know, articles for them, and before you know it, I was like getting like emails and stuff from people like literally like around the world. For those that don't know, Reality Sandwich is actually more, it's more of just like an online platform. Before it was like an online magazine, a journal, and it was featuring like prominent intellectuals like Dennis McKenna and Daniel Pinchbeck and others on, you know, taking a look at psychedelics and like the revolution of consciousness and whatnot. And so that's where I started kind of getting my niche, was in that realm.
I mean, it's very, you are very much in that niche. Like it's your comfort sweet spot.
Well, it's less of a niche nowadays because it's like so mainstream. I mean, you can go on Netflix and there's documentaries all over the place. And nowadays it seems like you can have a conversation with anybody on the street about it. And even just like normal Joes and Janes are like, oh yeah, you know, microdose and blah, blah, blah. Like it's just, it's become such a common thing, you know?
The amount of situations I've been in where microdosing has come up organically is insane to me.
Yeah.
These days. All right. So as both an author and a cartoonist, how does that balance in your mind? Like, do you approach an idea the same way every time, or does it depend on what the idea is?
Well, balance. I mean, in terms of balance, so even when I'm writing like a book, a prose book, or even a nonfiction book, I'm drawing shit out. So the visual stimulus is very important to me to any kind of narrative whatsoever. So they've always just naturally flowed for me. So my creative process shifts from project to project. There are some that I'm more diligent on and I need very specific notes, like note cards and things laid out like a crazy person, with yarn tied between.
Right.
And there are some where I just need like 4 or 5 pages just worth of doodles that are kind of like mapped together that I just know when I look at it, that I just like know what all's going on. And so a lot of times, like, I think most of my concepts are just formulated in character drawings, setting drawings, just images that I can tag onto. Because anytime I'm creating anything, that's really the first thing that hits, is usually like a character and a setting, like the place where they are.
Yeah.
And then circumstances start loosely like growing around that for me. I very rarely start with, ooh, this would be a good plot idea,
Yeah.
I have a few of those in my pocket. But most of the time when any of those come, those actually just come through a dream normally. Like I'll have like a weird dream that I'm like, oh, that's a cool one. And so like I very rarely come up with like a plot idea as the initial start of something, and then I'm going with that, and then I have to create the characters for it or something like that.
Yeah.
If that makes
No, yeah, it does. Then what decides? So, for instance, like the first 4 issues of Psychonaut Presents, very visually arresting. Like there's all kinds of dope visuals in that.
Thank you.
But it could have also been, a memoir. It is a memoir, but I mean, you could have done a prose approach to that and made it shine as well. Maybe not as well, but it would have been great. But then you have like Red Mass, which you wrote as a prose, that's filled with imagery that could have been a dope comic. So like, what decided each? Well, Psychonaut Presents, I guess I know, but Red Mass, why did you decide to go prose there?
Well, honestly, with Red Mass, that was in a time where I was very insecure about my art. It was after college. In college really kind of damaged my artistic expressive mentality. I mean, you saw me, I still drew, but I didn't wear it on my shoulder.
Yeah,
certainly. And if anybody ever called me an artist, I'd be like, oh well, not really,
Yeah, it was very annoying
like that.
Time.
Oh yes, I look back and I'm annoyed at myself. Like, it's very ridiculous. I let a few instances of criticism get to me and became, self-degrading and annoying. Yeah. So that's really primarily the reason why I went with Red Mass, because really Red Mass is like lived as a visual comic or movie or TV show in my head. Like at one point I was even like the main initial outline of Red Mass was kind of written in script form.
Yeah.
But so that's really what decided that. And then I still wasn't fully on board. There was a period of time, when I started dipping my toe in visual storytelling again, when my kids were young and I really wanted to like show them cartooning and thought it would like, inspire them. But I still kept down like, the book front, just because I did find a cadence that I was comfortable with, and I was writing articles like crazy at that
you
time.
Clearly had you clearly had a what's the word I'm thinking of?
Genius? Is that what?
Sure, there you go. Genius. You clearly had people paying attention. Audience.
I found an audience. I was like literally had people that were fans of things that I saw or things that I wrote, that were messaging me. I would have somebody send me like, hey, listen to this podcast, and there would be people talking about psychedelic science and they would reference something I wrote. Like, it was crazy. So I'd certainly found like a knack, because I don't actually consider myself a great writer by any means. I'm just a basic writer. I'm fine with that. I don't feel that's not self-degrading.
Yeah.
I think I'm fine, but I'm not. It's not like I'm not a Neil Gaiman or anything, but I definitely found a knack that I was able to like communicate some like solid ideas that really resonated with people. So I was just really kind of riding that wave for a while. And then, I mean, Psychonaut Presents is really where I really kind of threw myself back into a visual medium. And now I feel like I'm kind of like at an evening out point. I'm trying to kind of like, okay, let's find a way to like carry both of these a little bit, because I had a lot of energy to burn whenever I got back into drawing comics fully, and I'm like, COVID happened at that time too, and that was just like three years straight of just head down, and when I haven't been doing it for like decades, so it was, I don't want to say it was necessarily burnout, because I'm still enjoying it totally, but certainly like I'm older now, and my energy level is like, okay, slow down, Moeller, slow down.
So set the scene for us. Besides needing free time to do so, working a full-time gig, what do you need to most easily get into the zone for your work? Like where you're firing on all cylinders. Like
I used to have to have a certain set and setting, right? I used to have to have my bourbon. It used to have to be at night, like no interruptions, nobody interrupt me, and a certain kind of music playing. And I don't know, I think it's something about the mid-40s, and that I think a part of it is I really haven't leaned fully into my passions my whole life. I feel like I've wasted a lot of time, so now it doesn't really take it. It's just finding the time. It's just finding the time outside of like family obligations and work and stuff. When I have that time, I'm boom. I don't really have a problem not focusing or not being able to just be in it. Even if it's just I'm taking like 10 minutes while waiting for like my kid's doctor's appointment to get his shots or whatever, like I got that 10 minutes, boom. I'm at it, Right. Ideally, I love like I think the time I'm thriving the most is mornings, specifically early mornings. Like I think it's another old age thing too, but it's like getting up with that sun on the weekends, because I know that morning is mine. They know everybody's going to be sleeping in at my house. No activity is going to be happening until later in the day. So I got those mornings, man, and I'll either put on some like weird vaporwave mall soft shit or weird psychedelic rock, or like Saturday morning cartoons, something like that, and then I'm just like drinking my coffee and boom, I'm just at it. And I'll work here in my studio sometimes, but I'm actually finding, because I work here all the time, all day, every day for my day job, I'm finding, coffee shop work a lot of fun, because I don't get pulled away or distracted by anything that's going on at home either. It's just like, boom, I can focus and I can get a shit ton of work in just even like 5 hours each morning on Saturday and Sunday. And that's like my prime,
Nice.
So, but
Very cool. All right. Well, so we're wrapping it up. What do you got? What do you want to promote? What do you want to?
I want to surprise you.
Okay.
You. And you have to act surprised no matter what. Okay?
All right. I've had a lot of bourbon, so I'll try.
Like I just said, I got like just in today my new covers for Psychonaut Presents. They'll go out on Indie Planet soon.
Right.
But I also got in a proof copy of Vision Tales number 0 by both you and I.
Holy
so
shit!
This is the start of our universe. It looks way better in person, actually.
Oh my god!
Yeah, we need to go grab some lunch soon, so you can take a look at it. So I don't know when it'll be available on Indie Planet for sale, but it will be hopefully sooner rather than later.
Amazing. Good Lord.
So, yeah, I had a lot of fun with this cover. So for those of you that are like just diehard fans of us, which is a shit ton of you out there following Aaron and I, we've had a Vision Tales number 1 that was really only con exclusive. You could only get it at conventions.
Issue 0, not number 1.
Issue 0, I'm sorry. And so, but we only made it available for conventions, but we won one we could sell to the mass populace online. And, really, I actually, even though that other cover was fun, it was an homage to George Perez and a Family Gauntlet, but this this has a lot more of the energy of us,
Yeah.
I feel, and it actually features only the characters that have been featured so far in our superhero universe.
In media
In
somewhere.
media.
That's
So-
awesome. That did turn out very cool.
Yeah,
even had
I
the
really
faint
like it.
surprise.
So, yep. So I got that proof in. Really excited about that. Let's see. I am working on Vision Tales #1 right now with you and Jeremy Bohannon doing the colors. The pages are looking great so
That
far.
look very cool.
Really excited. So that's one thing I'm kind of doing intermittently while working on Simon Myth #3. Right now, you can go out and get Simon Myth #1 and 2.
Which you should, 'cause they're
Issues 1
very
and
dope.
2 before you get #3. Yeah. What else am I working on? I'm working on another NVCC New Vision Comics project that a shared universe between you and I, but it's specifically just one of my main characters. So working on that, and I'm also working on a book of short stories, believe it or not, that I've been kind of just dabbling with in my spare time, that I'm having a lot of fun with. It's going to have my first vampire story in there. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be like, I've always wanted to write about vampires. Who doesn't want to write about vampires?
Right.
Other than that, I've been really excited about a couple things that I've been reading lately, including Jan, the Vagabond,
Thank you.
and Cicero Wants You. Good book so far.
Yeah.
I'm almost done with it. I'm finishing it tonight. Got just a few more pages left. That muscle relaxer kicked in last night when I was reading. Yeah, no! Can't look at another page. I'm getting all droopy-eyed.
All right. Well, where's the best place for people to find you if they want to reach out or just follow what you're doing?
DanielMollerWeb.com is my website. And if you want to follow me on Instagram or Facebook, it's @TheRealDanielMoller. So I post what I can, but I'm not like regular with it. I have a YouTube channel as well, called Daniel Moller Psychonaut Sessions. And I'm mostly right now just doing videos of old comics that I'm looking at, really. It's
Good
just
stuff.
That's it. I'm not doing any major interviews or anything. I think I might do Tony Lorenz soon because he has a John Tar book coming out from Floating World Comics and Power Comics, and I'm a big fan of that stuff.
Yeah.
And he told me he would love to jump on the show when that gets
Cool.
closer to coming out. So I'm probably going to feature him, but I don't have anybody like major lined up right
I
now.
got you.
I'm just working and reading
You're
comics.
pretty
That's-
busy. Yeah.
That's where I'm at. So
All right. Cool. Well, thanks for coming and chatting with me.
yeah,
we did
dude,
this proper this
anytime.
time.
Yeah, we didn't even get all slobbery and stuff. So
It got close. I couldn't think of the word audience. So
we were somewhat coherent. Like,
there you go.
so,
All right.
cool, man.
Till next time.
Yeah, keep it psycho, dude.